Hey guys, what's going on? Icy Cat here. Today we get our first look at what the two new operators look like, as well as insights into their potential abilities. Let's go over all the information that Ubisoft released today, next. This developer blog was posted today by Ubisoft. I'll put the links for this down below in the comments section so you can go check it out for yourself. But we now know that the new operation is officially going to be called Operation Grim Sky. And here's the information that we've got. These two operators may associate with two different CTUs, but they are both joining Rainbow's Urban Tactical Response Team, codenamed Grim Sky. The first operator is a defender from Great Britain. She's a tough police officer who's an expert on mob behavior and snatch squad tactics. She knows she belongs on the front line and she won't tolerate any nonsense. The second operator is an American attacker, a specialist with a remarkably sharp mind when it comes to tactical operations. He has seen the worst in Kabul. Despite it all, he fell in love with the city. Legendary for his surgical precision, he remains an enigma within Rainbow Six. We're also introducing our first map rework. The map in question is Hereford Base. Despite the high chance of rain at this iconic training facility, we're renovating the place and making many adjustments to raise the bar for competitive play. A few gameplay enhancements are also making their way into Operation Grim Sky. Following a lengthy test phase, we're bringing forth much anticipated modifications to address the weapon sight's misalignment. But that's not all. In our constant pursuit to improve the game and the player experience, an adjustment with the operator idle pick, as well as dynamic resolution scaling for console, are also on their way. So there's two new features that are coming to the game that we weren't necessarily expecting. Of course, dynamic resolution scaling for consoles will certainly enable that to be a more smooth gameplay experience overall, and we look forward to more information on what that will all entail. However, operator idle pick sounds like an interesting new feature. We're not really sure what that is. However, that could be something that relates to a player being AFK and then defaulting to the recruit pick. This might be something that would allow you to have maybe a few preset choices so that maybe if you aren't able to make your selection in time, rather than defaulting to recruit, it may go to some of these like idle preference picks that would sort of replace that default recruit selection. Just sort of guessing here, but that is kind of what it sounds like. Grim Sky is also an interesting reference to the new map remake for Hereford Base. When they put out the announcement yesterday for the Hereford logo, there was a little bit of like rain on asphalt, and if you clicked the live image, it was actually an animated GIF, and it would play little raindrops that would go by every once in a while. It was a very subtle effect, but it was there. Along with the reference in the description to, despite the high chance of rain at this iconic training facility, that makes it sound like there's going to actually be some weather effects on this map with rain. I'm really curious to see if that's the case, how they will handle it, because we do have some minor weather effects on maps already. For instance, did you know that there are actually already weather effects in the game? They're just so subtle, you can barely even tell they're there. When you play on a map like Chalet, for instance, there is actually snow. You can see snow falling, but you have to almost like stop and stand still and look for the very occasional snowflake to maybe pass in front of a dark surface to kind of see that it's even happening. It's so subtle, you can't even really tell. Now, I'm sure that that's done because in some ways having those particle effects would perhaps get in the way of the 60 frame per second engine. It might slow things down and cause them to be a little bit more problematic. However, on the most recent edition of the test server, they were testing out a new physics engine, and some of that might possibly be tied into something that has to do with particle effects. If there is some new particle effect rendering combined with dynamic scale resolution on consoles that could make it so that that effect is either more or less present as it might need to be, then we could actually see some rain effects that you could notice. And if you're playing on a base level Xbox or PlayStation, maybe it's a more subtle effect. Whereas if you're playing on the Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro, you might see it as a more pronounced effect. And of course on PC, depending on the settings you have enabled, it might even be even more pronounced in those cases. So having some weather effects might be something that we could actually see begin coming to the game. Now let's talk about the two new operators. So the first one, it says, is a defender from Great Britain, and she's a tough police officer. So if we take a look at this image here, we get a better idea of what we're working with. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will point out that this does not look like a woman. This actually looks almost like Pulse. Maybe the braid is just pulled so tight that it looks like there's no hair there, or maybe it is actually a woman with bald hair. I don't know, but the blog does say that this is a female defending operator. Appearances aside, you can tell that there's some kind of a shield gadget here. But would we actually have a defensive shield operator, kind of a counter to a Monty or a Blitz? We've never seen that on defense before. Or is this actually maybe not a shield and more of a case of what we were talking about in the video yesterday, how data mined files have pointed to the fact that an operator's gadget would be coming soon that has something to do with hole plugging. Maybe this is a device that you actually stick into a hole that's been blown open and then it will expand to fill that space, thus resealing that hole. Sort of like an expandable shield that Monty has, but meant more for closing that gap when a hole is blown open in a wall. We do know that there's a reference to a file that's been data mined that says something about hole plugging. But this shield also seems transparent and has these 2 points on it that seem almost like they're like electrical stun contact positions. So that almost seems like it would fit more with an operator carrying a shield. Plugging that hole and allowing you to see from the outside to the inside wouldn't be the most effective. But what if the gadget was actually something that would be a little bit of both, essentially a hybridization of these two concepts? What if this was a defensive operator that could use a shield in a way similar to Monty or Blitz? And while in that mode, may even actually be able to make direct contact with a player and engage what looks like could be some type of a stun effect upon physical contact or melee range with the character. But then if the operator chooses, they can take that shield, plug up a hole with it, it will expand to fill that space. Now the operator doesn't have the shield anymore and it's instead covering a hole that's been made into an objective. That could be a really interesting take on a defensive shield operator, because then they sort of have the choice between the ability to hunker down and have that shield to hold off the advance, or do they want to seal up the objective and make it harder for the enemy to get in? If the shield is two-way transparent, then it allows them to be able to see when the attackers might be making a push past that hole, but it could backfire by allowing the attackers to see safely into the room without being engaged as well. We don't know a whole lot, but at this point this character definitely has some kind of an interesting device, and with the exciting possibility of maybe being the first defensive shield operator, I'll definitely be looking for more information as soon as we can find out. Then we have the American attacker from Delta Force. This guy looks like we're definitely confirming the rumors of an operator that has a blowtorch ability. This would essentially be a third version of a character that can cut through reinforced walls in some way. It's unknown if he'll be able to make man-size holes like Thermite can, or if it'll be more like murder-size holes the way Hibana kind of does with her pellets. It'll be interesting to see the way that plays out. However, having a third hard-breaching operator was a bit of a necessity, because right now with the new pick and ban system that's available in custom matches, you could theoretically ban both breaching operators, Thermite and Hibana, with the 2-pick ban system for attackers, and leave the attacking team no way to possibly get in through those reinforced wall panels. Having that third breacher is going to be necessary if that's a system that's going to continue to be in play for custom matches, or if pick and ban winds up expanding its role into a different game mode further on down the road. Now, we will be getting more information on all of this content with the new operators and the rework for Hereford Base. That information will be revealed in full during the Paris Major. That is the finals for this current season. Will be taking place August 17th through the 19th, and we will be getting all the information at that point for what is coming up. But between now and then, you can expect to see more teasers and trailers that might give us a little bit of hints and insights as we lead up to that event. And I will definitely be covering all of that information for you. So if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. Make sure you click that notification icon so you're alerted as soon as I make new content available. You can also follow me over at IcyCat25 on either Facebook or Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.